Assalamu alaikum. Now this peach anarkali dress that we're making on a very fine net, I've combined all the panels and I've fine trimmed them so that because it's quite reflective you can see the reflection. I've made sure that they've all been cut. No matter how good you are at sewing, it's very difficult to get them absolutely accurate. So once you've attached them, sometimes you have to just lay them flat and cut, or I actually used I didn't use the threading in the cutter, but the overlocker, I just used it it took me a whole hell of a long time to actually fine cut all these. Now generally when these garments are factory made, they have special machines that stitch and then trim away the excess. And on one of my overlockers, which is a 5 thread, but it's not been working for God knows how long, when you sew on the 5 thread overlocker, the 2 outer side seams actually seam as a locking thread, and then the inner side ones actually overlock and cut at the same time, which normally gives a very, very good result. The other thing is when manufacturers do the cutting of these garments, they actually have obviously larger tables, and with pressure the fabric is pulled and laid out evenly, and then there are multi layers of fabrics that are placed one on top of another, and they cut on a special design template that cuts absolutely evenly, so all the pieces are even. And then when there's minor excesses, obviously that's trimmed away with the machines. We don't have that benefit, so we have to often compromise and use our own methods and techniques in trying to achieve the same result. So with this particular dress, what I've done is combined 7 gullies for the front, 7 each for the 2 front main pieces, and then I've combined 14 for the back because there's going to be 28 pieces. Now 2 of the pieces, they were not the cut up ones, because we're going to be, this is like on a straight edge because it's going to be like an open shirt type of anarkali. That's the 2 fronts, and then we've got the back. Now we've done no cuttings or anything on this yet. I'm just going to explain what I've done with the border and so on, and then we're going to go on to cutting this. The other thing that I've done is I finished off the sleeves, and now initially I started off with putting some Banarsi fabric in. It was a jamawar fabric that I was going to use, which had green, and then I went and bought some beautiful green net that goes absolutely perfectly with that one. So I've left that one to a side because I'm going to do another tutorial on that one separately. You'll have to come back and watch what I do with that one. For the moment, I decided to go for the pink contrast with this alone. So it's just going to be peach and pink, a beautiful, beautiful contrast, I promise you. And you know what, I can't really wait to finish this off, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and get peach jamawar and make the suit underneath this anarkali in a pink, in a peach jamawar, and hopefully finish it off with the pink buttons. And oh, I can't wait to finish this off. Anyway, it's going to be absolutely scrumptious suit. I've made the border. There is 6 yards of trim for the bottom of that anarkali. Now the 6 yards, the way I've combined this is I cut, this is a 56-inch wide silk in peach, and I cut 4 pieces of that in measuring 8 inches. So 8 inches I cut off the silk, 4 pieces, and then 6 pieces of the jamawar, and these were measured approximately 4 inches. Jamawar does fray a lot, so I always recommend sort of cut it lastminute.com, and then that way it doesn't stay cut up laying around. And also the other problem jamawar has is like on the edges it does curl. You know, like these edges, they curl unless they're left. The more longer it's left, the more it'll curl. So try and do it sort of just prior to stitching. And then we've used lace underneath this. Now the first thing I did was the silk and the jamawar. I've used the right shiny side of the silk upwards because there's a reflection through this, and obviously we wanted a neat finish on the background of this. So the first thing I did was I've just sort of rounded this off because it tends to, there's a lot of fabric here. So we started off at this end, and I placed the wrong sides of both, the right side of the silk hoop with the right side underneath of the jamawar, just facing the wrong side of the silk. I stitched them along that line, and then I overturned that, and where the turning was, I've stitched this lace on top of that, finishing that off. Then I turned the jamawar and I did stitching all along that, and once that was stitched down, I went on to attach this lace on. Now this is a bit of that I've left open. I'm going to trim this down just so that there is just seaming allowance left, because this is in excess, and then that will get attached to the dress and will overseam, and hopefully the seams will get hidden inside of that. So that's the 6 yards of trim. Just an important note to bear in mind, these trims are not cheap. I have to tell you, this one was £3 a yard, this is £3 a yard, and when you think about it, there's 6 yards of that, there's 6 yards of that, the jamawar is £4 a yard. It does add up. The price is not cheap, but then you're going to get a unique garment. When you go out to buy laces, it is a little bit off-putting because they are very, very expensive. But then if you want beauty, and if you want your own made thing, then obviously you do have to put the sugar in to make the dish sweeter. I know a lot of us tend to opt for ready-mades, and ready-mades have their advantages and disadvantages. One of the advantages of ready-mades is that obviously it takes the work out of you doing it, or entrusting somebody else to do it. But the other thing is that those garments are mass-produced, and what you got to bear in mind is these items, when they're sold, they've swapped a lot of hands, so a lot of people have really made their living from it or benefited from it. Maybe one person has sold the fabric, the other person has sold the laces, the person selling the fabric would have added their bit on, the person selling the laces would have added their bit on. So as it keeps going up, everybody's getting a share out of it, and the price keeps going up. Whereas manufacturers, they buy everything in bulk, they go to the main suppliers, so it cuts out the middlemen, and therefore they tend to save up on, and they keep the prices low. Also, a lot of the time, when it's bulk manufactured, the stuff that they use is second class, which means that it won't be as good quality compared to if you're sourcing it yourself. And also the workmanship, a lot of the time with ready-mades, they mass produce, and unless they're gone through strict checks and so on, a lot of the time there are a lot of faults in them. Anyway, I'm not gonna trim it yet. I'm just gonna put this to a side until I've done the cuttings and so on for the garment. So try and just look after it, roll it back up neatly, and store it away until your rest of your garment is ready, and then we're gonna lay it out on the table and trim away this excess. All these fabrics do fray a lot, so it's always advisable to leave the fine trimmings to the end. That's quite a lot of weight of okay, so the sleeves are done, that's done, and what we're going to do is cut up some of the cuttings of this anarkali. So we know that this is that's the side where we're going to cut. Just face these both each. facing down. I'm going to mark and cut for the armhole. Now I'm just going to attach it on the shoulders, and also I'm going to just really just fit it out for the fitting, and then we're going to go on to attach the border on the hem, because I want to leave the opening attaching last, and hopefully then attach the sleeves, then attach the border. I've got to yet work out what I'm going to do for the opening, because I seem to be running short on lace. Right, what I may do is just add this for the opening just on the front, and then do a neckline with just the cutouts. I've run short on this lace. I'm gonna have to, I know I had 2 rolls, I'm gonna have to go and search out what I've done with the other roll of this lace.